The recent Steam Festival meant once again playing a whole lot of demos. And for today's Critical Thought, we're going to be discussing what goes into a good demo, and at the end of the day, does your game need one or a prologue at all? The use of demos have been a very weird thing when it comes to the game industry. They were once almost always required and featured in magazines, and then somebody someday just said, let's not do them anymore, and then they stopped. Then, all of a sudden, after the success of prologues, people are now saying, well, let's do demos again. And it seems like the circle of whatever you want to call it is complete. But for developers, it's important to be able to show off what your game is, and there is a difference between a prologue edition and a demo edition. So to put this into food analogies, a prologue would be kind of like the smaller version of a meal that you get, a restaurant or a fast food place. It's a completed meal from start to finish, it's just smaller. And the very best prologues, as we did on an earlier talk, are just that. That when I play your prologue, I am seeing your game from beginning to end, or I'm seeing the core gameplay loop. When it could only be maybe a 20-minute, could be an hour or two, but when it's over, that's it. That's our complete version of it. A demo is more or less like a sampler platter. It is you're getting the very best and very little amounts of each part of the meal or of the dinner to then make your determination if you want the whole thing. And demo design and prologue design are two very different beasts. And like I said, we're going to be spending this video talking about demos. Now, creating a good demo is really determined based on what the genre and the gameplay loop is. For many action-based games, you can just literally take like the first world, the first 3 levels, put them in a demo, call it a day, and you're done. For games that feature very unique content, such as puzzle games, strategy titles, things that aren't as easy to represent, that requires a little something extra. And what we're going to talk about is kind of the bare essentials of this. So the first point is very obvious. Your demo should be bug-free. You should have all your text, properly aligned. You should have the text actually making sense. And the demo shouldn't crash, bug out, destroy somebody's computer, the very simple stuff. Next thing is you should have some estimate of what this demo represents. Is this demo the first 5 minutes of your game? Is it 25% of it? Is it a slice of all the major gameplay systems? Let people know what they are expecting out of your demo, because just as every game design is different, every demo is as well. Now, how much content you put into a demo is another very big point, because there is such a thing as too much. A demo should not be 10 hours. That's a little crazy for people to expect. Remember, when somebody is downloading a demo of your game, they are downloading for a snippet. Most likely, by the end of that night or the end of the play, they're going to uninstall that demo unless you really knock it out of the park. So the demo should be something that should be completable in a single setting. I would argue like 20 to 30 minutes would be safe. At most, 45 minutes to an hour. I don't think you should ever go beyond an hour, and we could even argue going beyond 45 minutes may be a little bit much. Now, one thing I've seen some developers like to do is this idea of the time-sensitive demo. As in, we're going to give you this game, but you only have 20 minutes or 2 hours, and then the demo will shut off and it will never appear again. Don't do that. You don't want to put pressure on somebody to play your demo. Just let them play it, put all the content that you trust them to play, and then end it. Now, another point is your demo should not have a time limit, or I'm sorry, not a time limit, it should not have a deadline to it, or a time sensitive, as in, this demo will only be up for 2 days and then will go down forever. And this is very important. The demo and the prologue, in respect, these are your windows for people to see your game. You do not want to make it hard for somebody to figure out they like your game. That kind of goes against the purpose of selling your game. Unless, of course, you're designing a completely masochistic experience from beginning to end, then, you can disregard this advice. But demos are designed to get people to understand what your game is. Now, in terms of the content that goes into it, like I said, it is very much a genre-by-genre basis. But obviously, I need to know what your core gameplay loop is. Whether that is a run and gun, strategy game, or TS, city builder, you name it. Your demo, depending on the genre, should have a functional tutorial. And when I say functional, I mean that everything that I can do in this demo should be referenced by the tutorial. Some demos, especially for like city builders and more complicated games, will literally just make the demo a tutorial map or a tutorial play. This is what I saw with the Dream Kingdoms game. And that Timberborn, the Beaver Survivalist City Builder game. That literally, the demo is their tutorial. And in a way, there's nothing wrong with that if the tutorial is meaty. The tutorial for Dream Kingdoms was, I think, a good 30 to 40 minutes of you learning that game, and that is perfectly fine. Some games will give you a demo that is just essentially like a small map or a small seed of a randomly or procedurally generated game, and that is actually that's really great to do, especially if your game has roguelike or replayable elements. I was talking to the developer of Fights in Tight Spaces about this, that the demo almost occupies like a small miniature version of their game because it's procedurally generated. So I can keep replaying that demo, getting a different experience. Now, with that said, though, that is an exception to this rule. Again, not everyone is designing a roguelike or roguelite style game. So again, you want your demo to have a strong beginning, middle, and end. And if your game is action-based, here's a little bit of a nitpick I have. It's the not ending with a bang kind of demo. And we've seen this before. You're playing an action game, you get to the end, some giant monster comes down from the ceiling or rises up from the floor. It's going to be an exciting way in the demo. And then it says, to be continued, come wishlist our game on Steam. You want to end the game after the climatic fight, not before it. You want the player to be thinking, oh my god, that was so amazing, I want to keep playing it. Not, that's it? That was a whole demo? And again, this is a genre by genre basis, and not every game is going to be able to do that. I can't imagine a 4X strategy ending with a bang, unless you all of a sudden say that every AI attacks the player at once. And speaking about call to action, you do want one at the end of your demo. You want, check us out on Discord, wishlist the game, follow us on social media, even link to the actual store page. Some game demos get their own respective store page separate from the actual game. And if you do that, make sure to include a link to the store page itself, because Steam, I believe, treats the store page of your main game and the store page of your demo as two separate entities. And you want people to be wishlisting your game, not wishlisting your game demo. Now, with all that said, demos and prologues are very attractive options for developers. And again, the advantage is the idea that it lets people play your game and give them a really good representation. And a solid demo and prologue can easily sell the main game many weeks, months, or who knows how long before the game is actually released. But there is a major downside to working on demos and prologues. And we're going to take our quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about that and answer a very important question. Should you even have a demo for your game? And now for a quick thank you to our current Patreon supporters. And if you're interested in my books on design, they are available at most major retailers. 20 Essential Games to Study is for first-time developers looking to be inspired, and the Game Design Deep Dive series covers the history and philosophy of major genres, with horror coming later in 2021. As we said in the first part, a good demo and prologue can be worth it in terms of the marketing and just the general awareness of your game out there. But there are several downsides you need to think about when it comes to working on this. So the first one is that making a good demo takes a lot of work. And I'll come back to that more in a minute or so. For smaller developers, you may not have the time, resources, and of course money to dedicate to a demo when you could be, well, working on the actual game. And you have to really weigh the pros and cons of a demo. And this is the tough point that you need to look at. When it comes to kind of marketing these games, there are three things you can do. You can have no demo or prologue, you can have a good or amazing demo or prologue, or you can have a bad one. And here's the danger of this. A bad demo for your game is worse than having no demo at all. And what we have seen from developers is that if you're not sure of how to make a good representation of your game, putting a bad one out there is basically shooting yourself in the foot in terms of getting people to play your title. And this is a risk you have to weigh when it comes to your game. Because if your game is not really good in terms of making a friendly demo for, like let's say it's a very esoteric game. Let's say you're trying to make the next Paradox Software style 4X game. If you can't figure out how to do a good demo for that, people are going to assume, obviously, that the quality of your demo is indicative of the quality of your game. And if your demo sucks, guess what they're going to do? They're not going to want to play your finished game. And as we said in the first part, again, your demo should be as bug-free as your finished game. I played a demo, for instance, of the game Code Vein, where they left in controller issues, that the demo could not recognize a gamepad, but it was fixed in the finished version. And I had a few friends who weren't going to buy the game because they thought that, well, for obvious reasons, that the gamepad functionality wasn't built into the PC version of it. And that is something you don't want to do with your demo. Now, a good demo for your game, as we've said, it needs to be able to show off your game in the best light. Now, the footage you're seeing here is from the game Smelter, and we played this earlier in 2020. And we enjoyed it, but the demo did run a little bit longer than I think it needed to be. And as we've said, a good demo does what it needs to do and needs to end on a high note. Some games, like this one here, I think the demo is just literally the first chapter of their game. And some action games can get away with that, but you do want things to end, again, well. You want people to look at your game and go, wow, that was amazing. I can't wait to play this game. Let me wishlist it. Let me tell people about it. If your game doesn't have those moments where you can pop, it may be worth it just not to have a demo. Now, part of the reason why demos kind of fade out and where this whole discussion came from was the very idea that you now have refund policies for a lot of your games, especially if you're on Steam with a 2-hour return window. But conversely, not every store has that. For many console games, they don't give you a refund period. You buy the game, that's it. It's yours, whether you like it or not. And for myself, I find that I'm very leery of doing the refund policy because it just feels like added steps to me in a lot of cases. Unless I'm going to show the game off on stream or do coverage on it, just for my own personal play, either I'm going to buy it to keep it, or I'm going to play a demo or prologue and get the actual version of it. And for developers watching this, again, If you cannot make a good demo for your game, if it is just not working, if the people you're showing to aren't enjoying it, don't release a bad demo. Even if your game is amazing, you could have the best game imaginable and the worst demo, and people may only review your game based off of that demo. Now, to wrap things up for this video, like we've said, you want content out there for people to experience of your game. Again, point of a video game is to play it. And if playing your game, that's how people are going to decide whether or not they're going to like it. But as we've said, not every game can make a really great demo. Action-based titles get away with this because just playing the game or playing like the first chapter or two is going to give you a very good indication of the quality. But if we're talking about something like a roguelike, a puzzle game, something that is a lot harder to kind of conceptualize what is the core gameplay loop, then you need to get creative with it. Look at giving players a slice of your game. And again, a highly curated slice that can show off the best points of your game, and again, explains to somebody what it's going to be like to play your finished game. If you can do that, you want to have that available. And as we've said earlier, some developers will have a separate store page for a demo, others will just have it on the page itself. But regardless, if you do have a demo, make sure to have it somewhere listed on your store page. I believe when we spoke or we did our Indie Inquiry show, we did say that if you do have a demo and it's attached to your game, it will create kind of like the button or the prompt for it on the store page itself. But I'm not 100% sure of that off the top of my head right now. Regardless, you want people to be able to find it, and you want them to experience it. With all that said, for those of you watching, my question for you is this. Can you think of any really either experimental or different demos, other than what we would normally see for a game, that managed to sell you on it? Did it do something unique? Did it just represent things differently? And can you think of a time where a bad demo dissuaded you from a game, and let's say that you went back to that game later on and you enjoyed the retail version more than you did the demo? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, if you have a topic you'd like to suggest for a future piece, please get in touch. Come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where he's on the art and science of games. And until next time, take care.